Alright, so we're going to talk about the Unearthed Arcana, right?
We're going to talk about Unearthed Arcana. They've released some new subclasses for Fighter, Wizard, Rogue, all to do with psionics and stuff. I'm going to be sketching it, and we're just going to be chatting. It's going to be very freeform. If you want to look at this PDF, it's in there. This is all playtest stuff, but they do come out with it, and it's always interesting because some of the stuff which is like definitely good ideas and definitely bad ideas all comes out in this stuff, and usually gets changed if it's very obviously if it ever gets into an official book. It can spark fun conversations.
They're all psionic this week as well, which is something which I know, Theo, you love very much, is the psionic stuff.
I myself don't have like a strong idea of what psionics should be, and I don't think Wizards of the Coast do either. And I think that is an issue that we will come across when we talk about it and look through it. But yeah, let's talk about the Psychic Warrior, who is the fighter subclass that they've added, who I have strong opinions of, so I'll keep myself at bay.
Just to give a summary, he's kind of a Jedi.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. Kind of.
He's got all the base sonic stuff of, telekinetic hand and...
Yeah, so he get... At third level, you do get Mage Hand, as the cantrip, as a...
And it's invisible.
It's an invisible one as well, which is
so he has the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a bit of that. The thing I dislike most about this class is the first third level ability actually you get actually. Psionic Armament, and I think this one is really badly thought out.
It's OP.
It's OP as hell for one thing.
It's real strong.
So basically, it means that as a reaction, every turn or every round, you can either do an extra 1d4 psychic damage on a weapon attack, which is.
That's all right.
It's good, but it's fine.
That's not the issue. Or
the issue is the other option, which is that you could reduce an incoming attack on you or an ally by a D10 as a reaction, and this is just something you can do without any resource, which is really, really stupidly strong.
Now, to play devil's advocate.
No, sure,
If we compare this directly to another thing. Compare this to getting superiority die and maneuvers. And maneuvers are very powerful and very fun. And it's kind of on the same power level almost as that, but you can do this way more than your maneuvers.
That's the thing. Giving it just an unlimited uses, as it were. And there's no... If it was like, you can do it your intelligence modifier number of times, and then it resets on a short rest or whatever, then that's a... Yeah, that I can understand that.
I think you could limit it a bit more by you could only do it to yourself.
And because
that means because even if you're not in a position where you're needing your maneuvers or you're in combat in a certain way, you could just protect someone else every round.
Yeah, I think it's the D10 that's getting us. If it was if it was like a D4 and then like a D6 or a D6 to D8, that'd be like 3. It would be like having a heavy armor master.
But I was literally about to say, it's comparable to heavy armor master, but not as consistent. So at least that's
and it's once on somebody, so that's not as strong. It's the fact that you could roll a 10 that we're getting at. It's
a 10, and then and again, using a reaction, obviously a fighter might want to be doing opportunity attacks, especially if you're got Sentinel and stuff. If that's what you're kind of built around in a way, but I don't think it's no, it's
also a D10 at third level.
Yes, that is another important point.
Yeah.
At least it doesn't have a plus on it, but still. So that's dumb. Bad ability.
Yeah. The rest of the stuff, I think it's very cool flavor kit stuff, but it's nothing that's going to define what you do on the battlefield.
Sure. I think the other main thing it gets that's interesting, quote unquote, I don't really find it interesting, but the other thing it gets is the strength of mind thing, where you basically get a spell. At 7th level, which is it's like a push with some psychic damage on it, right?
It's also a pull.
Oh yeah, it's a push or a pull, which again is useful because crowd control, fighter, that's all interesting potentially stuff.
It's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But it's not the worst thing about this class at all, so I'm not going to rag on it too much.
I really dig it because I would much prefer having something I can do this 5 times than any Eldritch Knight spellcasting.
You know what? That is a very fair point. Eldritch Knight is
it's just
it is. It's bad.
It's not good. It's just not good.
You know, I'll just say it now. I'll summarize the issue I have with this class.
Sure.
Which is that fighter is good at having lots of health and doing damage, right? And most of the stuff that this class does is give you better ways at having more health and just more damage even more. And it's just really like, you don't have, nothing about it has to be psionic apart from the fact that it does psychic damage and you do get the push, which is cool. When I imagine like a psychic fighter, because fight is all about the tools that they use, right? So I'm thinking, why is there not like a levitating sword thing where, like, as a bonus action, I don't know, you get reach 10 on your attacks for that like round, and maybe that's on like your intelligence, and maybe you can attack with intelligence instead of strength or something like that. To me, would be an obvious thing that's like just not in here. All it is like the other thing you get is like you get a damage buff, like you do more psychic. Like what? Okay. Anyway,
yeah, I get it.
That's a summary of my thoughts on that. I think
I'd like to see that like the ability to swap strength and like intelligence. That seems like a glaring miss to me personally. But I'm sure you've got more to say on this, Neil.
I think the bit of a problem there when you're kind of beginning to talk about that is that almost sounds like a warlock.
It's a fair point, but I think a psionic knight guy is towards warlock in a way.
Yeah.
I think that there is room for crossover.
Definitely.
In that, I think.
To talk about a couple of other things, because there's some very interesting stuff we haven't talked about yet, which
Sure,
I
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
that isn't just damage.
Yeah.
Like, I like the cover ability, the bulwark, where you can replace one of your attacks with an... Because what's interesting about this is that all of these things you're replacing stuff with.
Yeah.
Like, instead of doing an attack like bulwark, instead of doing one of your attacks, you get a 10-foot radius half cover. So you basically, Samara in Mass Effect 2.
When I first read it, I was like, what does that represent? I was not sure what it was actually like trying to mean. I do get it more now that it is like a sort of psionic bubble shield sort of situation. It's still a little weird, but it is kind of more interesting.
And what I like about it is that it's one of those, it resets on long rest, but then it also resets if you use second wind. That's just fun.
That is fun, yeah. Because then that's a little thing where you're like, okay, when am I going to use this? I want to heal now, but also I haven't used my bulwark yet. Maybe I should think about that first and then...
And it just replaces an attack, so you can still do your other attacks in the turn.
Sure, yeah.
And the other interesting thing, because agonizing strikes isn't very interesting.
No, that's
the most boring thing.
Like looking at it's just
it's so boring.
I think it's class fantasy.
It's just like, what does it do again? Is it just
you hit a guy?
You get damage?
2d10, and then you can make them.
You make them fall over, don't you?
Yeah, you make them take a check, and if they fail it, they get disadvantage on ability checks.
It's so like. Because again, like I think when you said like it's Jedi Knight stuff, that kind of contextualizes what they're going for better than what I was originally thinking.
Yeah,
but I don't think they achieve Jedi. They just have like a couple things towards it, and it's just so. There's so many like if you think about like psionic archetypes within fiction, you're thinking about if you're talking about like a guy who uses sword. I don't think Jedi is the first thing that comes to mind. Maybe it is for some people, to be fair. But like the thing I thought when I saw this is like if I want a martial class who's a psionic, I think a barbarian could be so interesting because like you know, it's always at the bit when there's a psychic thing in a film or whatever where the psychic guy gets angry and like everything's shaking and like they have like exactly. So like a psionic rage could be really interesting. Maybe it has like disadvantage on concentration checks made within 10 feet of them or something. I don't know, something
maybe your character only turns into a spellcaster when they rage.
Yeah. Again, something really
that'd be
unique.
Really fun.
Having a guy who could do like a levitating sword, maybe because that's kind of the way I was thinking about bulwark. Maybe I was thinking like maybe you like levitate your shield and it floats around to defend people and stuff. Like
that could be fun.
That could be a thing, but obviously not everyone uses a shield.
Yeah, that could be fun. I wanted to say one thing about Psychic Dreadnought. Which, when I first read through, I really like it because it's like the paladin. It's like the paladin abilities. The thing I like about it the most is that it's a reaction to taking damage. You can't just go into it. You have to get hit, take damage, and then you become your psychic powers flare.
Yeah. That was the thing for me that I thought was the weirdest. It was just like not like it's bad. I just thought like I didn't really get why it's like a minute, because it's not
It's
very
Avatar state.
strong.
It's
Yeah,
kind of like Avatar state is what it is. It's the same as like any other... If you go and look at like the Paladins, they all have this at like 18th and 20 level. This is literally what all the Paladins get.
For me, this is not a class I'd ever consider playing.
What would you give it as a challenge rating?
What I challenge rate? I don't know. I'm not sure we're doing that.
No, we don't need to. It's fine.
I think this isn't the worst subclass that they've added.
No.
But it's in my bottom 5.
I completely disagree with that, because I like the idea of them approaching the game of psionics, of giving every class a psionic version.
Oh, no, but not that. I mean, this class specifically.
And I'm saying that maybe fighter is more difficult to do than.
Yeah. I'm not saying that they shouldn't try. I'm just saying they didn't do it good.
Yeah, I get it.
It's not something It's not something I'm looking at and going, I want to make a character for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally, but that's a personal thing. I don't think it's bad. Per se.
That's because you have a very clear idea.
That is the thing. It's not the thing that I would make for this.
Speaking of classes I know that you'll never play, Theo, the Soul Knife.
Now, actually, I am more interested in Soul Knife to play than this class.
Really? I never thought in a million years you
Only
would ever
because
want
I
to
have
play
a very
a
specific
Soul
idea
Knife.
for it, and it's not the one it's not like actually... It's not really supported by what they say.
I can't imagine you ever playing a rogue.
Just to prefix it, this next one's a rogue.
Yeah, this one is a rogue, and T. Matthews is not known for liking edgy things, and this is the Soul Knife.
I mean, the main thing about it is that they can kind of produce knives, can't they?
Yeah.
Magically.
The Soul Knife.
They all have psychic weapons. Yeah.
Psychic weapons, which I think is really cool. The kind of scenario that it could be used for, in my idea, is basically like, if there's a situation where the party's weapons get removed, or they have to go somewhere like covertly, which a rogue might do, like infiltrate a high society party, they've got their knives like the whole time, which I think is really cool, personally.
The only thing that I need to make this a class I actually like is that I did check the wording and it does not support it. I don't like the fact that you make your magic knives and then you hold them and hit people with them with your bare hands. That is very boring and stupid in my mind.
Oh, you kind of...
You have to hold...
They just become a simple melee weapon, don't they?
Yeah.
You can throw them, but...
Now,
why
the reason that is a thing is so that you can't, like, do stuff with your hands while doing it.
Yeah, sure.
Or make a million of them.
And it's all, like... It's just to stop, like, rules lawyering, ruining it, essentially. Which is a thing that needs to be done sometimes. But I find the idea very bad of making your psychic knife and then hitting people with it, because it's just Goku Black from Dragon Ball Super, and this is dumb.
You see, that's what I'm really into.
To be fair, that's fine if you want to do that, that's cool. But this kind of character I was thinking, did either of you play Dishonored, the first one?
Yes.
The second one? You know the Outsider?
Mm.
Oh yeah, the one.
I think he could be like that style of character could be a psionic rogue. You know, like maybe the rogue like disappears in the middle of the fight and he teleports behind you, as it were. You turn around.
Nothing personal, kid.
And he's got his hands like behind his back. Like he's not physically being violent. He's using his psychic knives to stab you with his mind. He's not like going, ha ha, here's my glowing energy knife, which is again is fine if you're into that. But it's not what I would want to be doing. Because again, this class has like a scare mechanic in there as well. They're like meant to be scary, which is actually really interesting.
I like the psychic blade, the Goku Black energy hands idea. Yeah. That's pretty cool, particularly because of how much damage rogues do. That it could be very thematic to get really stuck in there and just be psychically ripping people to bits.
I think it really depends on like the campaign, like how it and like the rest of the party. If the rest of the party is like real bog standard boys, like human fighter, like half elf cleric, and then you got like psychic knife man, it could be it's not necessarily an issue, but it might feel a little weird for some of the other players if that was what you're doing. But again, if you're all fine with it, have fun. Consult your DM.
Just to sum up the higher level abilities for this class, because
they're
not really what's interesting. You get a fear, you get a invisibility, and you get a mind attack, disadvantage people. You get some psychic stuff at the higher level. The interesting thing I really like, this class is really front loaded with good stuff.
Yeah,
so
you can dip into it.
Yeah, you get the third level psychic blade stuff, always have your psychic energy hands or whatever.
Yeah.
But the enhancement ability is really good.
You can do a number of things with it. You can telepathically communicate, can't you?
Well, basically, you get to choose one of three effects, and every long rest you get to change them. One of them is just a little bit more move speed, 5 feet. The other one is, which for rogues is technically doubled because they can dash as a bonus and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And they can communicate telepathically. They can choose that instead, or they can increase their hit points by their intelligence modifier plus their rogue level.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
So yeah, you can basically make yourself a more tanky rogue.
I don't
if
really
you are getting
get
stuck in.
why that's a psychic thing. Mysticas and Psionic stuff in general is something that you playing and the DM and hopefully everyone else via description have to have a really good idea of what it means, because hit points don't necessarily mean you get hit harder and that's fine. It could mean all number of things. Maybe you are making a psychic barrier around yourself at all times that's absorbing damage. That's all I think fine. And it's so long as you have the idea and have an explanation for it, I think it's okay. Just think if you just think about it I do more damage, I have more health, then that's not the way to think about really any D&D stuff, but I think especially for Psionics. It'd be if you chose Artificer and then didn't think about your gadgets for your spells.
I just shoot a gun.
Yeah,
I
cast this spell. I cast this. It's do you not use a little fireball gun? No. I mean, yeah. Whoops.
No,
anyway.
I say a magic word.
Yeah. I think it's okay.
The psychic blade is useful again because it's not a magic weapon, but it means you have access to a weapon that will not be reduced by any kind of strong enemy because it's doing psychic damage.
Yeah. There's a couple things that are immune to psychic, but not loads.
Not loads of stuff. And obviously then the sneak attack damage follows the same damage that the weapon did, so it would be all psychic. So
that's true, yeah.
Which is pretty fun.
And some people do believe that sneak attack is typeless as well.
Okay. They're
just damage. I'm not going to come down on that because I have a rogue in my party in my Sunday campaign who does so much damage, and I'm just I'll just add it, okay? I'll just add it, alright? I'm not going to figure out whether or not that was necrotic I'm just going to add it.
But yeah, I actually like this subclass. I would maybe not play it, but I might use it for a villainous NPC, potentially. I think that could be a good one.
Yeah, totally.
If I were to play it, I would want to talk to DM about how some of the psychic stuff is manifesting, because again, I would want to just be a creepy guy who's eldritch to a certain extent and isn't going ha ha and spinning around holding lightsabers. I think that mini lightsabers. I think that would be silly. Of course,
I do like your idea, and it's very easy to talk to a DM about just having your blades float. I mean, it makes no actual gameplay.
Yeah, maybe you're using your hands to do you're in some meditative pose or something.
Yeah,
I don't think you have to rule lore it to that extent. It's just in there because there will be people who will try and take advantage of it otherwise. Anyway, but yeah, the idea of a guy, because again, this is a rogue who could sneak in. And he could put on a suit and checks.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you got any weapons on you, sir? No, you're
nope.
fine. Sneaks in, does an assassin with ooh, what's this? Does a psychic blade leave a wound? Is another question. I would assume
that's
not.
Very good.
I assume it would be
because it does psychic damage.
It does psychic damage. So you stab a guy in his chest and then his brain stops. I think that could be quite cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a psychic assassin who's killing nobility.
I think that's very Dishonored. I think that could be very... That's how I want to use it. And again, I think you could perfectly well use it as a ridiculous anime.
Dude, it's so edgy
fine.
If you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it is called the Soul Knife. So
it can go full edge.
I think the frightened thing's very cool. I will say that as well.
Yeah.
Not a lot of stuff gives... There's not a lot of things that frighten things in the game. Frightened's one of the lesser used... saves effects for players at least. I think it's a couple spells, but It's something that like it's something dragons do to players. It's not something players do to people. Anyway, okay, wizard.
The wizard.
Now, this is the magic little girl.
This is the what I think this is, because they've added a bunch of psionic spells. Is what they've done. So this is them making the mystic its own class is too difficult the way that we were thinking of doing it. If you just want to play a psychic guy and that's all they are, and like they just full on psychic and you know everything to do with that, then you play a wizard and you choose this.
You choose these spells. Yeah.
And you take the spells that they provide. And I think while that's not like the most elegant solution, I think it's the best solution.
I would say it is an elegant solution to the problem of the mystic.
I guess I mean it's not as elegant as I'd like in a way, but the way that they were doing Mystic before was so like just throwing things on a wall and disorganized. It's like,
seeing
all right,
what sticks. Yeah.
Just give us stuff. Just give us a wizard. That's fine.
It felt like one guy made it over 6 months, and then
it's just like again, it's just not knowing what they wanted out of the class. I think as well.
Customizability was clearly their thing. They wanted it to be as customizable as possible, and giving them and basically, if you went through all of those little things, they just got access to lots of different spells. Is really what it was.
It's basically what it was,
and that's what I'm saying. That's really what it was, and then you get that same effect by just giving them access to the wizard spell list.
Yeah, and then saying you're doing it psychically. Like, thanks, thank you very much. You don't have to give us like basically firebolts, but call it like psychic beam or whatever it was. Anyway,
so Psionic. The first thing that they get is that they don't use arcane focuses; they use psionic focuses.
Yeah.
Which there is a huge grey text block.
Yeah, it's really like I was really surprised by it. It's just like, whoa,
it's a good 3 chunky paragraphs of.
I guess this must be really important.
This is basically saying, guys, don't just make a wizard here. Think about this is what we were talking about earlier. Think about your psychic. Like,
again, it's like how with Artificer there's a big block that says when you're casting spells, you're using little magic items. Maybe how's that sound?
And again, this is because they even talk about like childhood mementos. This is why I said it's the little girl with her teddy bear.
Yeah, it's a little creep. It's a bit of a weirdo. But they're a psychic weirdo, so it's alright.
The first thing you get access to you kind of get enhanced cantrips.
Okay.
So like Friends, remember Friends has the ability where they don't turn hostile after you cast Friends.
Yeah, which is kind of silly.
So you just get to mind trick people.
Yeah.
Which is very fun, because Friends is like, they just kind of become an acquaintance. You know,
and I guess with Friends, maybe the thing is, would you ever cast Friends because of the fact that they know that you cast it after a minute? Like, there's not many circumstances that you'd actually use the spell, because that downside is quite bad.
The potential consequences could be very severe for not too much gain. It's usually a poor roll of the dice, per se.
That's the thing, like, you might use it on like a mook, because you're like, maybe we can get some information out of this guy, and we're going to kill him anyway, so it doesn't matter if they go hostile. It means that, like, it would become like your signature thing is to go in and cast Friends on a guy.
Your next thing you could do is also you can have the invisible mage hand, but you can also control it as a bonus action.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
It's very good.
Which means, you can be taking the keys out the guy's back pocket, stuff like that. It's quite... It's very cutesy in, like, the psychic kind of way.
Yeah, it's the telekinetic thing, but you're really good at it. Is the thing. And
then you don't need to telegraph message is the last thing. Like, you don't need to whisper or point.
You just have basically a psychic communication, which is cool.
Which, it's basically like, this is just like, you pick one of these, and then you get a psychic... You get a spell that already existed in the game, but now it's clearly a psychic power.
Yeah. And it's also just like, these are the things that you would expect, like, Mystic to have. This is, again, why I think this is basically revised Mystic, like, in general. Because it's just like, that's the first thing I think when I think, like, a Mystic guy, I should have, like, an enhanced mage hand, because there's precedent for that, because the Arcane Trickster Rogue has a better version of mage hand as well. And then, like, give it, some good thinking spells for manipulating people and stuff.
And then the next thing you can do is become a being of pure psionic energy.
Which is a little bit more confusing to me. But I do get it.
It's almost like they're trying stands again.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that's also in my bottom 5 subclasses.
I know you dislike that one, but I really like that one as well.
It's just so dumb. It's just not. I love JoJo, but the I don't remember what it's called. The astral projection monk guy.
Oh yeah.
That'll
be for another video. Top 5 worst Unearthed Arcana.
What they don't tell you about bad Unearthed Arcana classes.
You are calling this what they don't.
There.
You are calling this video what they don't tell you about psionics, right?
Oh, I don't want to.
So your psionic form,
you gain physical resistance, which is good.
Yeah, you turn into anything you kind of want that's kind of the size of you.
Yeah, which is fun. You can take any form, which is I guess.
Thing.
Now this was when I was talking to you about my character idea for this.
Yeah, you had a cool idea. Yeah.
Would be that you that this is your thought form is actually your true form.
Yeah.
So for instance, the idea I came up with is for potentially maybe an evil party, or if you really wanted to tell a maybe longer story, it could be very interesting to play a mind flayer trapped in a normal person's body. Because they're all about psionics, and some of the psionic spells are literally like Sonic Blast is just the Mind Flayer ability.
Yeah, that's what it is.
When you enter your thought form, you turn into a psionic Mind Flayer, and you start, shooting at your things. Because part of what it does is it enables all of your spells, not just the psychic ones, to be cast psionically, which means they don't need verbal, somatic, or material components.
Which is very strong,
really
depending
good.
on your...
Depending on what spells you're packing.
Yeah. But it says material components that lack a gold cost.
Yeah, so you still need the...
So you can't cast Revivify, but if you need something... If you need something weird, like blood of a humanoid that died in 24 hours...
yeah.
Which is something I needed for Conjured Greater Demon.
Oh yeah, you did, yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, I needed that for that spell. So, stuff like that, it was kind of... It's class fantasy again,
exactly.
You're changing time, the fabric of reality.
Which is, I think it's fair. What I will say about this ability, the whole spiritual form thing, I don't think it shouldn't be there. I just find it weird that it's a level 6 thing, because it feels very apotheosis of your class, this is the thing, this is the big... It kind of like how the paladin gets, isn't there a paladin who gets, wings and constantly glows at, 20th level and stuff? I can't remember. It's it feels in a similar style to that. I think, again, it depends on what the form is and, how over the top you describe it. Because I think it does say, you are clearly, a magical being when you're doing it, doesn't it? And stuff like that. It doesn't have to be... You turn into your anime OC.
Well, it literally says your form can appear as anything you wish.
Exactly. So that's just down to creative differences.
I do agree with I agree in principle, but I think that's maybe a problem with every other class rather than with this class. I think that people should get those cool abilities earlier.
Or some version, yes, because I guess that is a fair point.
Get them early and then power them up.
Because I have an Oathbreaker in my Sunday campaign who's looking forward to their big, evil, dreadful mode.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to 20th level, when he gets it, we've been playing 3 years.
Yeah.
And everyone is casting true polymorph and all this crazy shit. I think that maybe it should be more maybe 10th.
Maybe
halfway.
And maybe a super version of it at 20th or whatever.
Yeah, I think
because you're not going to have many sessions of playing once you get to 20th. Well, depending. I mean, obviously
not many campaigns get to those levels.
And that's also a thing. Yeah.
Off 15th, 16th, I don't really I don't know. Unless you set the campaign to you're starting off at a strong level, it's very rare. But that's assuming if you're playing in a game where the DM is tracking experience. But anyway, that's a whole other point.
I also have strong opinions about XP as well, but I'm not.
Anyways,
that's a whole other kettle of fish.
The next stuff, they get free spells. When cast them once, Dominate Person or Scrying or Telekinesis.
They get very psychic useful spells.
Very powerful spells.
Yeah. And they don't cost anything, or
and they do at a level get a constant levitate, which I think is very fun. So which I think is awesome, and that is something that I would like to see at a lower level appearing. Not like as strong as it is there, but having like, isn't there a spell which gives you like a little flying disc that means you're just not technically on the ground?
Oh,
yeah. Tensor's floating disc.
That's
Yeah,
the
so
one.
I think giving like low level characters like that would be fun.
I think 14th is actually very reasonable for that. 14 is like...
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the only thing there is that, like, that's why I would like to see, like, maybe a weaker version of that at lower level, potentially. Just like you hover,
Levitate.
like, a centimetre off the ground when you're in that form. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's kind
Or
of...
you just can cast Levitate on yourself, like the second level spell or something.
That is true.
Just quickly, was there any of the kind of new spells or anything added that we wanted to talk about quickly? That
No, I haven't read them all. There's a lot of them.
Because I have not particularly looked at it, to be honest.
I've read through them.
Yeah?
I can sum them up as make an intelligence or wisdom save.
Yeah.
And then a thing happen.
Yeah, and then a thing happens. Like a bunch of them, it's quite. Some of them are interesting because some of them are all about defending against those attacks.
Okay.
Like defending against your intellect stats. Charisma, intelligence, wisdom, protecting yourself like that. And then of course, like mind thrusting and and again, basically fireball but psionic in front of you. And...
What is interesting is that they are proposing to add these not just to wizard spell list, but also to the warlock and bard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Bard,
Which is
sorcerer,
pretty cool.
warlock, and wizard spells.
Yes, which kind of implies that they might be planning to do this for other classes as well.
Psionic bard is fun.
Psionic bard would be cool. Again, I really want to. Why isn't there a Psionic monk? Why not that yet?
A Gith Yankee.
You can't play the Gith monk? Yeah. But I imagine that's coming if they are going to be doing this. So that's not a problem yet.
I'm happy that the wizard's got good Wi-Fi connection.
He's got very good Wi-Fi coming out of his head, yes.
Yeah.
Very
and
powerful.
a Soul Knife will always have good waifu connection because of their anime as hell.
Nice.
I think that's the end of the video with that sentence. I think that's it. I think that's done. Look forward to hopefully tomorrow or later today or something. Watch Challenge Raiders. We're talking about some monsters. And if people enjoy this, or if we enjoyed it, or another Unearthed Arcana comes out with a class we want to talk about, maybe we'll do it again.
We might talk about more D&D news.
Maybe.
And I like there was a bit of a debate. I was positive.
There was discourse, difference of opinion. But
I think with subclasses, it's more down to personal preference about when things are good or not.
100%.
Yeah, and we can all, when something's like broken or overpowered, that's less. But if it's just like, I would like to play that, or I think that sounds fun, that's fine. But that's a good thing because you don't want everyone to play the same classes. So
no.
Yeah, and again, this is playtest material. I think they'll make changes, at least to some.
They generally do a bit.
Probably all of these blocks of text will be shortened to half their length.
For one thing,
and they'll find a way. They'll find some way of wording it succinctly while limiting it, and it'll be. They'll fit it into a page instead of like 2 for the wizard.
Yeah. See you later.